All right, everyone, remember that ignominious time there where the 11-year-old got attacked by a dude with scissors, an Islamophobe who proceeded to like cut her hijab off to expose her hair, and the original sort of Quran slash Bible slash Torah reason for that is angels will see your hair and attempt to like spawn demons or giants with you. That's actually what it comes from, which is itself hilarious, and evidence that this isn't a backwards philosophy that we're dealing with as far as hair covering goes. It's become cultural, so it's gone beyond that. It turns out that hate crime, so-called, was fake. Just like most other hate crimes appear, generally speaking, to be either incapable of being evidenced or provably false. It seems like 2 out of 3 hate crimes or some crazy number is actually fake. That includes, by the way, sometimes some white person will say, oh, I was disrespected by this, person of color, minority or whatever, and they said, racist things to me. And then it turns out they're full of shit. Like, it happens among so-called majority individuals, too. The problem is this. It's sort of like the Me Too stuff. And Hollywood has begun to fight back, and politicians and others. Now that they realize that mostly neoliberals are the actual perverts, they're trying to tamp down on it, and they'll probably try to disarm that movement before the midterms. They don't want to make it a great big deal, because it wouldn't be good for them when they show up with 75% white male candidates either in the Democratic Party. You got a situation where you've got a motive for people to file a false hate crime report. It's sort of like there was a motive back during the burning times for people to say, oh yeah, my neighbor's a witch. It helps cast blame off of them. It alleviates boredom because it's part of a social panic, just like the hate crime problems we have now, which don't exist, are part of our current social panic. It's the same as the ever-broadening term Nazi or racist or anything else under the sun. The concept that we have a prevalent issue in the Western world with bigotry, hate, and intolerance is simply fake. It doesn't actually exist. But the thing is, if you acknowledge that it doesn't exist, things go back into relative relaxation, boredom, and it takes away a reason to censor the internet, which is not what any large corporate firm or politician wants. They all want to censor it and tax it and control it more because they're terrified. They're part of the establishment. They're the ones losing online. So naturally they want hate crimes, laws, and of course, it won't actually be hate that they're going after. It'll be people with unpopular opinions. Oh, well, you talked to the wrong person. Therefore, we're kicking you off our platform. You're too dangerous for us. You're too edgy. That's what they want. And it's bullcrap. And it will always be bullcrap, and I'll always stand against it. It's like when people say, like when Right Wing Watch says that I'm a hate enabler. Okay, yeah, I've talked to people on the alt-right. I've also talked to people who consider themselves like socialists, so... Yeah, joke's on you. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. You're just trying to create a new definition that doesn't even exist. You're trying to do that and put people in it to try to disarm them because they're your competitors within the news. They have larger audiences than you do. You feel sad about that fact. Fucking who cares? But when things like this happen, I wonder if the left realizes that when somebody claims, hey, someone cut off my hijab, somebody hit me for being black, somebody yelled, slurs at me for being gay or whatever, when they immediately jump on the outrage virtue signaling bus, without knowing the full details, without knowing that it's actually true at all, and they don't the court of public opinion outstrips the actual court system or the police investigation, they really, really hurt their own message. Because then they said they put all of the outrage into an event that is then totally discredited, evaporates that outrage, and actually gives a little bit of support to people who honestly are bigots. There are actual bigots out there. You don't even talk about them. You'd rather talk about people who aren't bigoted that you happen not to like and you want to tar with that label. You don't want to talk about actual hate crimes. You want to talk about some fake hate crime that gets discredited. Like, remember, I think it was a couple years ago, remember that student... it was like, people are writing anti-Semitic messages and leaving swastikas on the board on my dorm room. And everyone's up in arms. They're like, we must support them, and we need to crack down on this. We need more sensitivity training and all this shit. And then it turned out they looked at footage, and they found out the student herself was leaving the messages and scrawling the swastikas on her door to get attention, to false flag other people as, to insinuate, hey, the campus has a big problem with racism and sexism and all these other horrible things, but it wasn't real. The only person, they were doing it to themselves to get attention. People can be attention seekers. Sometimes people like to whip up a little bit of a frenzy. You know, it's a human inclination, especially in a boring, cloying world where most people's lives are totally fucking mundane. They have the 9 to 5 and shitty existence, and so they get bored, and so they want to stir up shit. You know, the same thing causes trolling online. The trolling is what the media will say the trolling's the problem. No, I would say that something that could potentially get someone thrown in jail for something they didn't do is more important than, hey, you said something insensitive that hurted my feelings on a forum somewhere. I cry every time. Like Cory Booker there was like, I was literally shaking and in tears. So in other words, you're Wojak. Yeah, I think that's a rather apt comparison. You're even like bald. Yeah, we've found the perfect real life Wojak at this point. It's really, really funny. So this was a fake hate crime. A lot of hate crimes turn out to be fake. Then you got some real hate crime, and then people doubt because they've been desensitized. They've seen, well, that one wasn't real, this one wasn't real, and they call anyone who says something mildly offensive a bigot. So I don't even believe that it happened. And so then you get less accountability. You have a breakdown of people who otherwise might like help to try to stop such things and say, you know, I stand against violence and condemn hate and stuff, like I do. I stand against, I don't know if some people realize this is the case. I don't believe in political correctness. I think people should be at liberty to offend others. But I also stand against all forms of like racial or sexist violence at the same time. Like I don't want to see people beaten in the streets. I don't want to see people harmed or abused. I believe in their individual civil liberties. Absolutely. But when you get to the point where you're going to call me like a racist because I said something offensive or because you get some detail wrong in a 5-year-old video, yeah, that's a little bit of a problem. See, that's the thing is, you're taking people, I say this to the alt-left, like the new left. You're taking people who are not themselves bigoted at all, who don't have any alt-right leanings and who simply want to have open dialogue and no political correctness or censorship because those things are cancers on any society they are part of. They are social Marxist bullshit, and a lot of you are social Marxists apparently because you seem to be sympathizing with them. You're social Marxist sympathizers, not social Marxists yourselves. I'll turn the tables on you here for the purposes of a rhetorical sort of discussion here. You're taking people who otherwise would largely be helpful to you in saying, well, yeah, you know, hate is, it can be totally undue, violence is wrong, and you're making them almost side with people or be inclined to at least not side with you, who may themselves be actually bigoted. Because you're treating them like pariahs for having a fucking opinion, which has nothing to do with bigotry in any way, shape, or form. And so the Holts of the world, really, they're destroying their own movement. Their movement will fall apart. It already basically is. Like the resist movement. Is it still a dynamic force or has it fallen apart into a really purist core and then a bunch of auxiliary people who don't give half a shit? That's what's happened to it. It's the same as Occupy. Occupy was good for a while. It was a big movement, way bigger than the resist movement, and they fall apart. You know, mainly because they start using a lot of drugs in their tent camps and raping each other like filthy animals. That's what Occupy became. There's still an Occupy movement. It's like 10 nerds with hipster beards sitting there drinking local microbrews and talking about the revolution. That's never going to happen. That's what it's devolved into. A bunch of idiots. So yeah, fake hate crimes are really helpful. It's really helpful. You know, you've given a story. You know, you all talked about it. Front page news. Oh, you know, problem with xenophobic attacks in Canada. Islamophobia is everywhere. We must do more about it, says Trudeau. And it turns out you're fucking full of shit. And Trudeau's an opportunist. Some people still think that he's like really out there on the left. He's not. He's just a baby-faced, hobbit-looking idiot who doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't know how to govern a country. Should kick him back out. Wasn't he embezzling money from a bunch of commies anyway? Wasn't he getting money from a literal communist movement at some point? I think he was. I think they caught him out taking Cuban donations or some crazy shit. Isn't his father Fidel Castro anyway? There is a little bit of a similarity there, so I wouldn't put it past him. That's about all. Peace out.